I've got 35 minutes, so I'm going to try and get through this as quick as I can. But basically, this is like a proof of concept thing for dwarfs in Total War Warhammer 3 to show that dwarfs are um, very much a melee based faction, not a missile based faction. Um, and to start with, I'll just talk about the sort of principles of melee and how to be effective in melee. Um, to start with, speed is always good to have speed because it's always helpful to flank and to get close to the enemy. It always assists in the other two objectives of getting close and concealing movements. Um, it's not always important though, because, for example, you can get into situations where you're already close to the enemy, or concealing your movements is uh, quite easy, and the point at which you actually become unconcealed is very close to the enemy. Um, but it's always good. So that's what you should be striving towards. But as dwarves, most of the units are like 28 speed or less. So that's a problem. So basically, you've got two very good options for speed, um, or I could say three. Uh, Slayers, Giant Slayers. So either variant of those. Giant Slayers are better, definitely. Um, and the gyro units, basically, they're the fastest units available to dwarfs. And you can use those for taking out, it's like sniping out specific targets which are dangerous to your blob tactic, um, if you want to do that, which it is effective to do, by the way. Um, like taking out an enemy mage or wizard or whatever, caster, um, or uh, taking out a specific unit that is dangerous to a blob, like artillery a unit, or like a Globadiers, where they do this, they do a lot of splash damage from their uh, sort of basically canister shot type weapon. Um, so those units are very good. They're not very durable. Those you have to be careful with them, but I do recommend those using those in conjunction with Slayers or Giant Slayers. Um, so obviously you want to get as close as possible to the enemy to engage in melee. So that it should be your primary objective, because in order to get into melee and do damage, you need to actually be touching them. Um, that's pretty straightforward. With regards to concealing movements, you've got to do things like getting into forests, hiding behind hills, applying any kind of stalk effect that you can get your hands on. It's quite difficult to get your hands on stalk effects for infantry. Um, so generally, you want to try to use go hide behind hills, or going forests, or get into situations where it's not important to conceal your movements, i.e., ambushes, um, sieges to an extent. That's also true, um, because once you engage the enemy, you're basically in melee anyway, um, unless they're outside the walls. Um, so to move on, we'll just talk about implementation for dwarfs. By the way, you can apply those. If I haven't already said that, you can apply those principles to any sort of melee tactic or strategy, whatever. Uh, any race in Warhammer, even any Total War game, or even real life. this is always true. These three things, that's always true. So next up we have the implementation. So faction selection, you have your choices of factions, and basically some are slightly better than others. I'm not going to talk about the lords necessarily, but because it's possible to get all the different legendary lords as each of the different dwarf factions. Um, the best faction for dwarfs for this strategy is Carrot Cadrin, because they give all their infantry units plus 10% speed, so inherently they are more suitable to this strategy because any speed you can get your hands on is massive. Um, Other than that, there's not too much else that I'll just have a look. Hang on, let me just save this game. There's not too much else that other factions can do. Um, the faction effects for melee aren't very strong, generally speaking. But let's run into dwarves. Okay, so for Thorgrim Grudgebearer, um, or Karaz I should say, you don't really get any benefits towards from your faction. You don't get any benefits towards towards melee in your faction effects. Um, that's that basically. Um, Carrot Cadrin, you only get this 10% speed, but and the other two things are related to recruitment and construction cost of slayers basically. Um, Belagar, you get more leadership when you're in a siege. I'd argue that melee isn't particularly great in sieges uh, because of um, towers and how easy it is for ranged units to be protected by um, bottlenecks. Basically, you do get the vanguard deployment when during the underway battles, um, but I think that underway battles are not particularly great for this strategy because you start quite far off. Oh no, yeah. Sorry, that's bullshit. So Vanguard deployment enables you to be close to the enemy during underway battles. So one of the problems with underway battles is although it reduces the width of the map significantly to prevent you from being flanked easily, the distance between one end of the underway and the other is quite large, so ranged fire can be quite effective, which does play into dwarf strengths with their artillery, but it can also play into the enemy strengths as well. So vanguard deployment takes that element away, and you can just be right in the enemy's face straight away, which is very useful for melee. And Belagar himself does do a few things for melee, but we're not talking about the actual lords. Um, Grombrindal Ancestral Throng gives 20% weapon strength against elves. You are going to be fighting quite a lot of elves in this campaign, so um, more dark elves than high elves, unless you really want to go fighting high elves. Um, that is good, yeah, definitely. It will definitely give quite a bit more weapon strength to slayers. Um, I know in my campaign I've got like my Kadrin campaign I've got like 76, something like that, or maybe 70 or 60, no, 63, something like that. 65, 75, something like that in that region of weapon strength on my slayers. So that's, you know, he's gonna have even more than that on slayers, which is incredible. But that's only against elves, so it's situational because you'll be fighting against Norska, you'll be fighting against Valkyria, Korn. You might be fighting Kings if you played incorrectly. Um, and you might, I guess you might be fighting the what else? Thorek doesn't do anything. Like his faction doesn't do anything for um, directly for melee. It just makes Runesmith stronger out the gate um, and cheaper to upkeep. Uh, melee the melee strategy does rely on Runesmiths quite heavily, so that is somewhat important, but not that important. The individual lords themselves probably do more overall as a collective than um, the faction effects. But in terms of the best faction effect, it's got to be Karakadrin. And his effect um, goes very well with some other effects that some of the legendary lords have. So if you can confederate them into Karakadrin, you're all laughing. Um, right. So that's faction selection. Composition. I think I've already talked about that. Um, Slayers, gyrocopters. Also, it also works if you want to use instead of Slayers, you can use Thanes, Runesmiths. Um, Master Engineers aren't very good for this strategy. They only do Flash Bomb, which is good for this strategy, but that's it. I guess they can also apply contact effects through shooting and certain items. Um, I don't think there's any other choices you can really make. If I mean, I'm assuming you're going mostly melee, um, which you should be if you're following the strategy. Um, there's no other units that really come close to Slayers, honestly, because they're unbreakable. The fastest foot units you've got. Um, they might be squishy, but they're the best damage dealers you've got as well. And they're very good with the Journey's End, which now works thanks to fixed by CA. Um, in terms of campaign map strategies, I'll just say that basically you want to try to get into ambushes as much as you can. One of the best ways you can do that is to um, have your army followed around by a throwaway lord that has no units in it, and then you basically put your main army into ambush stance, and then and make sure that that's in range of the enemy army's movement, and also put your throwaway lord in range and in reinforcement range of your army, and then you'll probably get an ambush off. Obviously, you can't prevent. Well, it's not obvious, but you can't prevent ambush detection chance. So it's worth noting that it doesn't matter if you've got 100% ambush success chance. That has no impact on your enemy's ambush detection chance, which is a hidden attribute which you can't see. But I will say that proximity um, will definitely affect how strong their detection chance is, and also whether you're in the same region as the enemy army. And also, if there are enemy agents nearby, especially in the same region, they're going to have a better ambush detection chance. Um, Obviously, you don't want to be ambushed yourself, and if you can avoid that, you should. So use the underway stance, or end your turn in a encamped stance, basically, unless you're definitely in safe territory. Um, Other than that, you should try to get as many um, tradable resources, just like normal, so you can get nice items on your characters and banners and stuff like that. But that's oath gold. Um, and yeah, so try to generate oath gold as much as you can, so that you can buy all that stuff. Um, in terms of battlefield tactics, already talked about getting close to the enemy and conceal any movement. So go through trees, uh, hide behind hills, um, and flank as well. Uh, if there's an enemy reinforcing the army, one of the benefits of having speed is you can potentially run towards that location and then jump onto them as soon as they enter the battlefield. So um, having a strong melee army will definitely be beneficial. Um, Other than that, with your formation, um, I've mentioned blobbing already. Um, Most of the power of this strategy comes from actually being in a blob, which is quite unusual, really, but for a dwarf player to think about, I guess. But so many abilities, as you'll see soon, are in a 35-meter radius. If you can put all of your units in a 35-meter radius, they will get all of those abilities. Um, Other than that, you can have a couple of units outside the blob to run down units, flank, or um, take out specific threats. Uh, Obviously, you want your um, gyro units to be outside the blob and running down stuff, or shooting at stuff, killing specific threats, sniping. Um, just literally all your slayers on top of each other, and then just avoid any area of effect damage. Uh, right. So in terms of viability, um, let's talk about that. So uh, rune of speed gives you plus 24 melee attack. So going quickly back to composition, in every single army you should have multiple runesmiths, because you want to be able to um, chain those rune of speeds together, and also double up rune of speed with master rune of speed, because if you can cast on a 35-meter radius one, and then overcast on the same radius um, the other, then you're going to get double effect, basically. So plus 48 melee attack and plus 90% speed. So uh, that is good to use, not just in the blob, but also if you want to decide to spread out or get to a specific location with a blob very quickly, like plus 90% speed, you're going to be faster than or as fast as cavalry, basically, on foot. Um, Next up, the Banner of Lost Holds. You'll get that if you fight battles, basically. Um, I don't know if there's any specific trigger. It's just it's just the for magic item drop chance. I think that gives you plus 5 melee attack, and I think it gives you some leadership as well, but it's not really important. Um, Same thing for Rune of Battle, which you'll get in the hang on, you'll get in the Forge. Um, Under not basically the banner runes. That's a banner rune. But unfortunately, you can only have one type of banner per army currently. I hope Creative Assembly changes that, but that's how it is right now. Unless you use mods, which I do because that's far too restrictive. You can only have one, for example, rune of battle per army. Just like you can only have one Razor Standard or one Banner of Swiftness. Um, Master Rune of Strongbeard is another one. That's a believe that's a another banner rune. Um, it's pretty much a must get. Same as Rune of Battle, really. You know, you must get these. Um, but the Rune of Battle is only for a single target, whereas the Strongbeard one is for 35 meters. Um, if you can grab a brass cleaver, that's brilliant. Plus 8 melee attack in the 35-meter radius is massive. Um, Obviously, after a certain point, you get so much melee attack that it doesn't really matter anymore. But and like if you've got slayers like I have, like on my uh, Diggy campaign, Kadrin campaign. Let me see. Like I've got this beaten up army right now. I've got like giant slayers with 86 melee attack. Uh, they're rank 6, and they've got +5 from Ungrim, from his like Slayer chain of abilities. Then they've got another 6 from Grimnir's heirs, and then they've got uh, another 5 melee attack from Honored by Grimnir, the rank 7. No, they haven't got that because they're not rank 7 yet, but they will get another +5 from Honored by Grimnir. So they're pretty amazing. I mean, their base melee attack is 48, and now they've got 86. And this isn't like um, because of mods. Like this is just, I swear to you, this is actually just in the base game. They've got Master Rune of Stromney Redbeard applied to them, but that only applies once they get to the battlefield. So actually, it's going to be 91 when they're on the battlefield. And then on top of that, they've got from the tech tree another 5 melee attack from the Slayer Oath, which is right at the end of the melee. Sorry, the infantry and unit part of the tech tree. Um, Nothing else. No other real sources of melee attack there. Right. Need to wrap this up quick. So yeah, get yourself a brass cleaver on somebody in every army. Get yourself a helm of discord. At least one helm of discord will be great to improve the effectiveness of your melee attack. And then I'll just talk as quickly as I can about Thor, Thorgrim and all the other legendary lords. Um, so Thorgrim has a natural ability to just apply minus 24 melee defense to one target for 44 seconds. So that's really good um, in melee. And I'm trying to talk about the viability, basically to show that um, this is like a really good strategy because dwarves are really powerful in melee. Like, so these are the ways in which this melee strategy is viable. So continuing on, hiking is his hiking ability gives another 8 melee attack in and 15 weapon strength in 50 meters. His great Book of Grudges ability gives another 8 melee attack in 55 meters, and then he can pick up stand your ground for plus 24 melee defense. Like, this is a huge amount of access to melee abilities. He has got benefits to ranged abilities, I think, but like, just don't sleep on this. Like, it's just so good. Like, and as a duelist, he's actually pretty good as well. He's a melee expert. Um, in terms of Ungrim for Kadrin, um, what does he have? He doesn't really do too much for his army apart from give Slayers +5 melee attack um, and another 10 bonus versus large. Um, besides the regular abilities that any Dwarf Lord can just give from the red line, he doesn't really do anything for them, or the default obstinacy from which reduces vigor loss um, reduction, which is totally does that whole line of language doesn't really make sense. Vigor loss reduction. Basically, it's a skill which makes your guys uh, either less tired or recover more quickly. Um, his abilities don't do anything. But of course, you want to get a Runa Spite on him or one of your other characters, because that's going to be that's another ability that's in 35 meters. So if you can get all your guys inside 35 meters, the enemy's going to blob around you, and then you're going to be doing 8 to 16 damage per second with a Runa Spite. It's like a no-brainer. You've got to get that. Yeah, his vanilla legendary items don't really do anything for the army either, unfortunately. Um, so his abilities are basically centered around him being sick in melee himself, rather than helping his army out. Um, but of course, you can give him items just like any other character to make him give more benefits to the army. But it doesn't really matter because you're going to use him anyway, because Kadrin is the best um, melee faction for dwarfs. Um, assuming you can confederate, especially assuming you can confederate other dwarf lords. I'll just go back to have a look at some other lords. So I'll just talk about Ancestral Throng and Grombrindal. he gives the whole army 35% more speed. So as we've already talked about, speed's massive. So you definitely value that. Grombrindle is just amazing anyway because he just doesn't matter whether you've confederated him or not. His blue line abilities just make your whole campaign way better because they're just so like powerful, especially like extra movement range, like faction wide. That's a sick ability. Um, I'll just try and load up a quick campaign for dwarfs to see if I've missed anything. Um, his Lord effects gives 10 melee defense and leadership. Leadership's not important if you're going to use Slayers. Um, it's not really that important if you're going to use Gyrocopters either, although they don't have great leadership. They have like 64 base leadership. It's like not that important um, because by the time that they're wavering or whatever, they've lost their effectiveness and their health, and which isn't very high. It's only like 3,700. It's not very good. But yeah, you're not going to use Quarrelers and Iron Drakes in melee anyway, so questionable. I'll just load them up quickly and see if I've missed anything. I don't think there's much else. I think he might give more armor piercing damage to the whole army, which is beneficial. I know that the other guy, Thorek, gives more armor piercing damage to the whole army. Just give me a sec for this stuff to load up. It's taking forever. We're nearly there. Yeah. Oh, it's taking ages. Right. Yeah. Skills. So what can he do? So it'll give plus 10 melee defense and plus AP 10 AP damage when defending. If you're using a melee strategy, you don't really want to be defending. You want to be the attacker. In fact, you want to be the attacker most of the time in all situations, um, or avoid combat because you want to be the one that to dictate the direction of battle. He buffs further in his special skills melee defensive iron drakes and gyrocopters and artillery, but you're not going to use them in melee. It's like not that important. Like it's cool and everything, but it's not that important. That aspect. The best part about that skill, the Rousey Engineer skill, is gives them a third more ammunition and 20% more missile strength, which is like really good. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. So Grombrindle's ability, Grombrindle has no fear, grants a 55-meter radius, unbreakable 24 melee defense, and he gets up to I think he starts with 3 uses and it. Oh no, he starts with 1 use and then it goes up to 5 once you get the skill. So for a duration of 24 seconds, you can have an extra 24 melee defense inside that radius. So obviously that's really good for a big blob. That goes without saying. So he does do something particularly good for this strategy. It has to be said. If you can get him into Kadrin, like he's even better because not only does Kadrin give you 10% extra speed for your infantry, all of your army gets another 35% speed, including all the characters. And yeah, the Age of Vengeance skill grants that at the end of his special skills, and then gives them 6 more AP damage and 6 less base weapon damage. Um, Apart from that, he does have the ancestor thing, um, living ancestor event thing, which grants his army, just his army, um, the ability to get more um, like melee defense and stuff like that. If you want to use that aspect of it, or you can choose something else. Um, and I'm trying to speed this up. I've not got much time at all. Oh dear. Um, well, you know what? Look, you can check out the legendary lord yourself. Um, you probably know for yourself how good they are for melee. You could figure it out yourself. But basically, suffice to say, uh, Thorgrim's probably the best one um, in battle for his um, for boosting this ability of melee, basically. Right. Skip on. I need to skip on quickly because I've got so little time. As the strength of the strategy, some of the best, some the best the units for this strategy are easily available, um, and more sooner available than some of the best missile units. Um, so you can get started with a strategy earlier. You can have your you can kind of build a composition and then stick with it for the entire campaign potentially. Maybe slightly tweaking along the way with extra characters or whatever. Mobility. So whereas like one of the strengths of this is mobility because you want to move. No, when you use a missile strategy, you're trying to sit where you are and uh, basically let the enemy come to you, and they dictate the um, time, manner, and place of battle, and they kind of lead you about and stuff like that. You have to react to them, whereas this strategy enables you to um, be in multiple locations at once, draw the enemy apart potentially, or it just you can run things down. It's like your because of your speed, and that's just a better strategy. I, I I'm really running out of time here. Time, manner, and place. So you get to choose because of your speed uh, and numbers where you fight, and when and how. Is it an ambush battle? Is it in a siege? Um, a lot of times you'll get to choose that. Uh, oh, that's not making a lot of sense. I need to move on. Uh, so one of the strengths is that you're going to be dominant in the field. You're going to have a lot of numbers, much more numbers than you would have if you were using missile strategy. Because a lot of times with a missile strategy, you're using more than half your army to shoot stuff, and that means it's not actually um, able to deal with a lot of melee units all at once necessarily, and you might get overwhelmed quite often. Um, you'll feel outnumbered. Whereas if you use a melee strategy, you can uh, outnumber the enemy, and you can be dominant in field battles for that reason. It enables you to hit the enemy with a large amount of melee force, and then it also you might even have units free to go around the flanks and hit the rear and stuff like that. What does racial strength alignment mean? Oh right, yeah. So um, Dwarfs are heavily armored. They're not normally very fast. That's true, but they're pretty tanky. And basically, this with all the other abilities that I've mentioned, um, it suits dwarfs. Um, and another strength, seldom matched heresy. So basically, that means that you in battle you will rarely lose the battle, and there'll be no other faction that can come close to, or rarely any other faction that can come close to how good you are in melee because of how strong dwarfs are naturally in melee and how tanky they are and stuff like that. This strategy is very good against Skaven. Now, although you are highly susceptible to um, area of effect damage, um, because you have the high speed, you can keep up with Skaven and get in their face as quickly as possible, and therefore you're not subject to being bombarded. You basically reduce or eliminate the impact of Skaven missile units, which will beat you if you go for a shooting match with them. Um, Finally, we go for disadvantages, weaknesses. So, like I said, extreme vulnerability to area effective abilities and magic. So you want to take those out as quickly as possible. Um, Preferably, you want to hide your army or run away or something until you've taken those out. So you can use like 4+ gyrocopters with brimstone guns, for example, to take out a specific target. That's quite effective. The more you use them, the quicker it happens. Um, you have a weakness to kiting, even though you have more speed with slayers. Um, you'll ah, you'll still not be able to catch up with like horse archers, um, and you won't be able to shoot them either because you haven't brought much missile damage with you. Um, if you fight in melee, then you are enabling strong melee units to fight against you. That's another weakness. So particularly strong melee units, which are actually stronger than you, get to fight against you in melee, and you are not avoiding that melee. You are inviting it. You are ensuring that it happens. So units like Scarbrand will do a lot of damage to you. So that is a weakness. You don't have much airspace control, although if you use gyro units, you will have air units. They are not very good well, they're terrible in melee in the air, and you won't be able to shoot down enemy um, aerial threats. Um, as I said before, in sieges you have a weakness because you won't you'll basically get bottlenecked by enemy defenders, and therefore the enemy missile units will be able to shoot you from behind their the enemy blob of which, to be fair, you'll get through quite quickly, but they'll be able to shoot you and whittle you down. It's better to fight in the field as much as you can. Cavalry and monsters, although it's definitely true that Slayers have a very good ability to take down these units. They don't have a lot of mass uh, compared to cavalry and monsters. So if you're not braced or blobbed, um, you can be susceptible to charges. Uh, but that's probably true of any army, any unit, almost. Uh, of course, it's a strength and a weakness that you're blob dependent. Blob dependent means you you need to be in a blob to be the most effective, and if you're you're just not going to be as effective, and that means you're going to be opening yourself up to area effect damage and magic. Although you do have 35% spell resistance, it's not really enough. Uh, and then the inconsistency of peak battlefield effects, that is a weakness in that you're not going to be able to always have the maximum output of your battlefield effects because um, certain abilities have only limited duration, whereas others have permanent duration. So you'll have cooldowns and stuff like that. So there'll be periods in the battle where you won't be as strong as the rest of the time. I'm going to leave it there.